Hey guys, I'm back with another video. This time I want to talk about the actual Devil May Cry collection. I just recently played it all the way through for the first time. I'd never beaten Devil May Cry 1 or 2 before last week, and I had beaten 3 before, but that was like, we're talking like 7, 8 years ago, I think. So I recently played through these. I want to get my thoughts on them since Devil May Cry 5 is out. I feel like, Devil May Cry is relevant again. So I'll go through each one of these. I'll briefly talk about it. It's not some in-depth review or anything. I just kind of want to give my thoughts on it. So we'll start with Devil May Cry 1. Guys, this is Devil May Cry 1. This is the start of the game. I just kind of want to talk about it as I play, so I'm not really going to be playing too much of it. But yeah, this is Devil May Cry 1. Came out in 2001. And I have mixed feelings on this game. There are some things I really like about it, and there are some things I really don't. Being the first game, it definitely looks the worst. This is one of the set pieces right here. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, especially for a 2001 game, but it definitely hasn't aged that well in my opinion. Some things look decent, and some things don't look good at all. Like, this is whatever, but this next scene here, yeah, it's not very good. I will say, though, this game is the creepiest out of all of them, which I love. Like, this going into every mission with, like, the weird laughter in the background and this creepy, it almost feels like Resident Evil PS1 type music. Yeah, I love it. This is one of the things I love in the game. But then we come in, and then you look at this, and it's like, oh, that's pretty old looking. It's pretty rough. One of the other things I'll say about this game is the fighting. I hate the fighting in this game. It just feels like shit. Like, this is the jump right here. I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel good whatsoever. The shooting isn't too bad, but unless you're playing on easy, you have to hold R1 to shoot, and it's terrible. It doesn't feel good at all. He just feels so stiff when you do it. The attacking, also, you can see me attacking. It feels really stiff. When you attack, you have to attack in a straight line. It's not like 3 and onward. I think it was 3 and onward that started it, where you could like 360 as you attack. This, you're just going straight line. Like, as I'm doing this, I'm trying to turn backward. You can't. Other than that, honestly, other things I would say that I don't like about the game, besides it looking old and not controlling the best, it's kind of boring. There's really not many cutscenes or story segments. It's just one mission on to the next. And some missions are honestly like 2 minutes long, and then other ones can go on for 20 minutes, depending on like if you know where you're going or not. Now, this game does a pretty good job at directing you on where to go, but there were a couple of missions where I would get lost for like 10 minutes, and then finally find the way, and then get a D rank on the mission. Because that's the thing with these games, is that these games are all about earning points, which turn into currency. So when you attack enemies, you get style points. When you beat a mission in a quick time, you get points. If you use items, points are deducted. If you don't use items, then you get more points. So there's a lot of factors going into this game. But the problem I have with this whole series as a whole is that I want to explore. Like, I want to look around. I want to take in these environments, especially in this game, because in my opinion, this game has some of the best environments. And it really does suck that when I take my time and look around, I'm punished for it. Other than that, though, I really do like this game. Being the first, obviously, like I said, it is flawed in a lot of ways. There's not really a lot of upgrading. It's pretty basic. Like I said, the attacks are basic. The items are pretty basic. As a whole, it's pretty basic. I guess I could say I'm saying that a lot. But like I said, it's a 2001 PS2 game. What do you expect? The good things I would say about this game is that it is the creepiest, which I love. You can tell that this was a Resident Evil spin-off with the camera angles, the controls. Although I will say this control is better than Code Veronica. But you can definitely see the Resident Evil roots in this, as opposed to the later games. Because the later games just go for over-the-top action. This game has it. But the puppet enemies, the music, the environments. Later on in the game, you come back here at nighttime, it looks even creepier. I love it. Like, this game definitely might not look the best, but it has the best art direction and the best atmosphere, in my opinion. Other than that, there's not much more to say on this game. It's the shortest. It's the most bland in terms of controls and mechanics. You know, Other than that, though, it definitely has a lot of things going for it. And I do think that, as a whole, it might not be the best in the series, but it is by far not the worst. And we'll get to the worst right now. So this is Devil May Cry 2. This is the infamous game in the series that everybody loves to hate on. For years, I've seen people tearing this game apart and talking about how shitty it is and how it sucks, it's boring, it looks like shit, it plays like shit. And I'll be honest, I thought that that was just people just loving to rip into this game because it became popular to do. You know, there's a lot of games and game franchises that people I remember loving when it came out, but now want to rip apart. Games like Resident Evil 6, Metal Gear Solid 5, stuff like that. I remember when those games came out. I mean, of course, there was people talking shit about it, but especially with Metal Gear Solid 5, people fucking loved that game when it came out. Now everybody hates the game. And I thought for sure, I was like, I bet Devil May Cry 2 is one of those games because it cannot be that bad. Because the first game I had played right before this, awesome, I had a good time, even though it's kind of doesn't play that well. And DMC3, I remember just being awesome. So I was like, there's no way this game in between can just be a pile of shit. Well, it's a pile of shit. And it's extremely, extremely disappointing. I'm so glad that I didn't play these games back in the day, because if I had played this back in 2003 when it came out, I would have been devastated, because after playing a pretty awesome game like the first one and going to this, it's terrible. For me, this is my Deus Ex moment, where I played Deus Ex Human Revolution, loved it. I couldn't believe how amazing that game was, and I played it years after it came out. And then I played Deus Ex Mankind Divided, the sequel that came out a few years ago. In my opinion, this game is that game, just in terms of disappointment. So this is this game. I'm going to play a little bit more of this than I did the first one, because I just want to kind of show off what I'm talking about. As a whole, this game sucks. It's just not good. It's not all bad, and in some ways it improves upon the original, but then in other ways it just goes the complete opposite direction. So we'll move forward a little bit here. In terms of the graphics, it looks pretty similar. Like this right here looks pretty similar to the castle scene that I showed you from the beginning. Like I could honestly believe it was from the same game. There's a little bit better texturing, but it's pretty identical. But I'll show you here because I think we're going to get to some enemies. And this is the main difference. So I'll just skip this cutscene. To me, the fighting in this game is so much better. But for me, the lock-on system makes all the difference. Now, there could have been a lock-on system in the first game. I never saw it. I never noticed it. But in this game, I love it. It just makes it so much more easier to play. And just even playing right now, like jumping up and doing that, looks so much better than anything in the first game. So for me, the fighting, way better than the first game. To me, the fighting in the first game felt really stiff. Now this one does feel stiff as well. I mean, you're still going in a straight line when you attack. But as you upgrade this sword, it just feels so much better. He gets so many more moves that do more area of effect attacks, more so than the first game. And I really appreciate that. And like I said, just him jumping up and shooting like that, it's just so cool. And there's so many other cool things you can do. So while I think this game does look better than DMC1, I would say the art direction is a lot worse. The first game was great because it was claustrophobic. There was a lot of small rooms. Unfortunately, that got in the way of the game mechanics because the fighting wasn't that good. And when the rooms are tiny and the camera's constantly shifting angles, it became disorienting. It wasn't the best. However, because it was smaller environments, I felt like there was a lot more detail. The problem with this game is because the areas are bigger, it just lacks that detail in my opinion. And the environments in this game they kind of jive with each other. They don't really make sense in my opinion. Like you have this town that looks like it's straight up from like the 1800s. It's really old looking. But then you have these modern signs. You got a street lamp right there. Like for what? You're telling me cars are driving on this? Like there's a one-way street apparently. Those cars are going to drive into a giant door. And by the way, that door goes to a secret mission, so I don't know what the hell is supposed to be on the other side of it. And then, see, I like this section of the game, but about 3 missions in, you go to like this city, and it's just like this weird transition where we're in this old-timey medieval-looking place, like DMC1, which I really like that idea. And then we go to like this looks like it's like New York City or some bullshit, and it's just so weird. I hate it. It's not good at all. I think as a whole the music is also worse. It's just boring. It's forgettable. To me, Devil May Cry 1 just had better tracks. The enemies suck in this game. The puppet enemies at the starting stages of DMC1 were so fucking creepy, and I love them. They were great. Other enemies in that game, like the insects and some of the spiders and other things, were just really cool. Again, it felt really Resident Evil. And maybe it's because like I knew that DMC1 was supposed to be 4, and initially in in Resident Evil 4 there was those weird mannequin enemies, so it's cool that they're like are the puppet ones, and it's cool that they're in DMC1. I don't know if that's why, but like to me the enemies in this game are just kind of boring. They don't really stand out, and the enemies are just fucking weird. At one point you're fighting these enemies called like infested tanks and infested helicopters, and they're like actual tanks and helicopters, like military ones, that have been infected with some, I don't even know what. Like, I thought I was fighting demons from hell, and now I'm fighting possessed tanks and helicopters. It's the stupidest fucking thing. This game does have more of a story, but it's by no means better than the first game. In fact, it's pretty on par, if not worse. Nothing happens. And I would probably say this game's worse, actually, because there's more cutscenes and talking in this one. But at the end of the day, like, it's just as forgettable as the first game. So yeah, a lot of people have complained about Dante in this one too, about him not being as quippy and like as funny and over the top. But let's be honest, people, there's like 4 cutscenes in Devil May Cry 1. Sure, he's goofy and over the top in those cutscenes, but like, it's really not that special. It's not that great. It's not on the pedestal that people put it on. People are always like, oh, Dante was like really cool in 1 and over the top, and then they made him that way in 3, but even more so. Like, I miss that. In 2 and 4, he's so serious. It's like, well, the guy has 4 cutscenes in the first game. Can you really tell what his fucking character is? There's more here, and yeah, he's more serious here, but if you know what happens in DMC1, it kind of gives an idea of why he might be fucking bitter and depressed. So, as a whole, to sum it up, this game is just long, boring. The environments fucking suck. The story sucks. It's not that good. And while it may be longer than the first game, it's by no means better. And even though in this game you can play as a second character, a girl named Lucia, you're pretty much running through the same thing. I think she has a couple of different bosses, but no one gives a shit about her. We don't even know who she is anyway. I still don't really know who she is, and she never really shows up again, so there's really no point playing it. It's just more padding to lengthen out this game, which, I'll be honest, I didn't want, because after 3 hours of this one, I was pretty much done with it. So that's DMC2. I don't think it's completely terrible, as people are saying. Now we'll get on to what everyone claims is the best DMC game, and I completely don't agree. So this is DMC3. This is the one that everybody seems to love, and I don't know why. I think that everybody who loves this game needs to replay it, because it is not as good as everyone remembers it, in my personal opinion anyway. What I would say about this game is it definitely looks the best out of the 3. It's definitely still aged, but it by far looks better than 1 and 2, I would say. But again, that being said, I think the environments are kind of shit. I like these city environments. They remind me of like an old Resident Evil game with a city in ruins and, you know, people getting killed everywhere. And, you know, well, in that game it was zombies. This game it's demons, but it's very similar. It has that creepy atmosphere, kinda. But as soon as you get to that tower in the background, to me the whole game just goes to shit, because the tower section is so fucking boring. And that is like a third of this game, if not almost half the game, is in that tower. Redoing the same parts, the same levels. You know, you'll do these missions like mission 4, 7, 9 in this one area in the tower. And then in mission 14, 15, and 17, you'll be doing those same areas, just in different orders. It's so boring, and it's so disorienting, it sucks. The environments in this game suck. The first 3 missions are great. Everything after that, for the most part to me, is totally forgettable and really, really shitty. That's just my opinion, though. Um, in terms of the story in this game also just really sucks. Like, I don't like it at all. It starts out cool. This is a prequel to DMC 1 and DMC 2. And it shows Dante when he was younger, just starting out, and it kind of shows his relationship with his brother Virgil, which you think is going to be cool, and it starts out cool until there's like this fucking giant fake out that just completely ruins the game in my opinion, because the game you think is going one way and you're like, oh, this is going to be cool, like I can't wait, this is going to be some crazy thing, and then the game just does a 180 and does this other generic shitty plot line that nobody cares about. I didn't care about it. It sucks. In terms of the characters, yeah, Dante is better in this game than in 1 and 2, by far. However, I think he's a little too over the top. I mean, I guess you could blame that on him being younger and he's immature or whatever, but like, I like a lot of the scenes, but I feel like in some of them, they just tried way, way too hard. And everyone else in this game is pretty bland and forgettable. In terms of the gameplay, this by far is the best gameplay. Like, I can't really talk shit about that. It's definitely the best. Other than that, I don't know what else to say about this game. To sum this one up, the bad things I would say about it, the environments, like I said, mission 1 to 3 that's in the city, I think is great. There's a couple other missions later on that I don't mind the environments in, but like I said, once you go to that tower, this tower over here, in my opinion, like right there, the game just goes to shit. The tower environments just fucking suck. They're boring to look at, and you repeat them constantly. And the problem with those environments, as opposed to DMC1, while DMC1 and kind of to a lesser extent 2 are open worlds in the sense that when you do missions later on, you can go back to the old areas. There's usually nothing to do there, but you can go back if maybe you missed something. In this game, you can go back as well, but the areas are so much more bigger. And in the earlier games, they would kind of block you off somewhat in some of the missions to kind of steer you in the right direction. You could still go back, but they would kind of steer you and show you where to go. In this game, they don't do that. There were tons of times where I'd find an item and have no idea where to put it. Next thing I know, I'm backtracking 6 mission areas ago. You know, some of the missions in this game took me a half an hour because I had no idea where the fuck I was going in this game. And it's a problem, in my opinion. So besides the the environments, the atmosphere, the story I think is bland. I think it's only better than 1 and 2 because there's more cutscenes, there's more voice acting. The stuff that happens in those cutscenes are pretty cool. It's entertaining to watch, but the story as a whole isn't really entertaining. So I think that's the only reason why people like it so much. But in my opinion, it's not very good. Other than that, I don't really have any other complaints so much. If I was to complain a little bit, it would be that you get a lot of weapons in this game, which are cool, and I really do like the weapons. However, I find that like you never get enough red souls to really play around with them so much, because there are so many things to upgrade in this game. You got a lot of weapons in terms of firearms, and then in terms of bladed stuff, and I just found that like you have to pick something right away, because if you don't, every one of your weapons is going to have like 1, maybe 2 upgrades on it. You know, I stuck with my sword for a lot of the game. I could fully upgrade it, but I really couldn't do much after that. When I picked my gun and I picked my sword and a couple blue and red orbs, or not blue and red, blue and purple orbs, there really wasn't a lot of cash left over to kind of experiment with other guns, and to me that was an issue. And that's really it. And you know, a lot of people might say this game's better because when you beat it, you get to play as Virgil, and that's so cool. It's not. It's not cool. Because you're just running through the same environments that Dante did, fighting the same types of enemies. I think there's a couple of unique bosses you can fight, but as a whole, it's the same shit. It's just added, like, the girl from DMC2 to just pad out the game, and I don't find it that interesting. It's like when Devil May Cry 4... the special edition on PS4 let you play as 5 other characters. Who gives a shit? Okay, if it's just reusing the same environments and you're fighting the same enemies, who cares? Yeah, they play different. And yeah, if you played as Virgil in this and you play as him in 4, you might think, oh, that's cool. It's like a throwback. I don't really care that much. So that's my thoughts on DMC3. It's not a bad game. I'm not trying to tear it down, but I do think it's overrated. Everyone loves to hate on 2, and while I think most of it is justified, I think people go a little too far. I feel like this game is the opposite, where people champion this game like it's the best in the series. When, in my opinion, out of this trilogy, 1 to 3, for me it would go 1, 3, then 2. So what I would say about this trilogy and this collection on PS4 as a whole is that they're not bad games. I don't mind the Devil May Cry games, but I don't think they're on that pedestal that people put them on. So what I would say about Devil May Cry as a whole, and this collection specifically on PS4, is they're not bad games. I just don't think they're quite on the level that people put them on. Like I said, I had never beaten 1 or 2 before, up until last week. I beat them. They were fun experiences, but I don't quite understand the love for them. 1, I would give, maybe a 7.5. It's a good game. I had fun with it, even by today's standards. Back then, I probably would have loved it a lot more, especially because back in 2001, there weren't that many good PS2 games. But I definitely think it's aged the worst, and I think people give it a lot more credit than it deserves because it's an old game. DMC2, Devil May Cry 2, it's not a good game. I didn't have the best time with it, and it was really boring. I would probably give it somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4, because there were still some things I liked about it. I didn't completely hate it like some people do, but I don't think it's good. And, Devil May Cry 3, I just think it's overrated as fuck. I don't think it's as great as people say it is, and I think that the people that say it is great need to replay this game. They need to, because this game right here is probably one of the most overrated games I've ever played in my life. It's not terrible, it's not shit, but it's not that great either. Like, I would honestly probably give it a 6. Like, it's a C minus. Like DMC1's a B. It's a solid game. The second game to me is like a fail. It's not good. It does some things alright, but not good enough. And for me, Devil May Cry 3, like, it's a C minus. Like, it's not that good. While it improves upon the combat, which makes it awesome in that sense, the story's just as boring and shitty. The graphics still haven't aged the best. The atmosphere is non-existent. And the music, while it's alright, it's just kind of weird. I don't know if I'd like this transition from creepy atmospheric music to just kind of standard battle music to all of a sudden this heavy metal screamo shit. I get they're going for the look, right? They're going for like a look with this game where Dante looks like a rocker, and we have this heavy metal music. The inside of where he works, it's got the pool table and the jukebox and the little bar thing. I get what they're trying to go for, and with the over-the-top action, I just don't think it's that good. In terms of this collection as a whole, if you're wondering if you should pick this up, here's what I would say. If you've played these games on PS2 and you haven't played them since, then yeah, pick this up on PS4. They are in 1080, which is nice. I also think they're all in 60 frames a second. So it'll definitely be a better experience than if you had played this on PS2. However, that being said, if you pick this up on PS3, this is a direct port of that collection. Nothing has changed. The menus are the same. The music is the same. The only difference you see in this collection that I've noticed is in the bottom right-hand corner you see the back button. I don't remember that being there on PS3, but it is here in the PS4 version. Other than that, the collection on PS3 ran in 720. This one runs in 1080. You're not going to notice. The graphics are blurry and fuzzy. They are in this too. I don't see much of a difference between this and the PS3 collection. However, you might see a difference between this and the PS2 games because the resolution has been enhanced and the frames per second has also been enhanced. So, if you haven't played these since PS2, now's a great time to pick them up, catch up with the franchise. 4 is also on PS4 now as a digital-only exclusive. So you can pick that up and get ready for DMC 5. If you already have this on PS3 and you don't mind playing your PS3 still, just keep that collection. Unless you want to have the whole series on PS4, you could do that because the whole series now is on PS4. But if you really don't care about that, stick with your PS3 collection. There's not much of a difference, really. So that's my thoughts on DMC 1 to 3.